Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name's Lara, adoptee, adoption wellbeing researcher, coach and psychotherapist. And today I'm talking about why saying we don't see you as adopted is a problem. I've had lots of conversations recently whereby I have been trying to explain the perspective of the adoptee to those who are not adopted, who have no experience of what it's like to be adopted. And there are some common ways of thinking about this amongst the non-adopted community that feels like it's very much coming from a place of love, a place of adoption blindness, should we call it. It's very much a positive statement, declaration of love towards the adoptee, and that's why I call it in my blog post, "We don't see you as adopted and other misguided declarations of love." Because this is something that people hear a lot who have been through the process of adoption. If they are adopted, those parents very often want to see them as their own child, and that can be quite problematic for the adoptee, as we've been hearing lots about recently. I shall come back to that a little more in just a couple of moments. The point about we don't see you as adopted, or to us you're not adopted, or we love you as though you were never adopted, is a problem, because those statements are very much coming from the perspective of the parent or the person who's in relationship with the adoptee. And whilst you might say, well, that's completely natural, why is that a problem? It's very much about how that person feels towards the adoptee. And so it is in effect invalidating the fact of adoption for that person who has been adopted. Now, yes, of course, adoptees need and want to be loved without limits, but most adoptees are very much a product of having been adopted, and with that comes several difficulties in terms of adjustment, and I will come on to talk about 3 reasons why that's problematic. But it doesn't really take into account the perspective of the adopted person, and it definitely doesn't take into account the experiences that they have had before they came to you. You know, even if they were just little babies, they certainly had in utero or pre-birth experience, which we now know to be the case. There's lots of evidence that looks at how in utero experience is carried through after birth. Also, there's genetic memory, which I've talked a little bit about, and also, you know, epigenetics, which looks at how experiences are passed down through generations. So when you get that little child, even though it's just a few days old, which was my case, that child is already a bundle of experience. And so then saying we don't see you as adopted really is kind of Tipp-Exing over all experience that child may have had up until the point that they've come to you. And that can result in lots of problems. It results in problems for the adoptee, who feels unseen, and it also avoids dealing with or avoids addressing some of the issues that the adoptee will need to deal with in their life. So instead of saying we love you as though you were not adopted, or we don't see you as adopted, how about saying we love you for all that you are, including all the experiences that you've had. We love you unconditionally, and we'll be here to support you. And we love you for the person that you are and the person that you're going to be, the experiences that you've had and the experiences that you're going to have. And yes, it's a very selfless approach to parenting, and actually that's exactly what adoptees need. They need to be thought of for the people that they are and all the experiences that they've had before they've come to you. And whilst I acknowledge that we don't want to be defined by our adopted status, neither do we want it to be denied, because we are who we are, as I said earlier, as a result of that. So 3 ways in which making these statements are very damaging. The first, we don't see you as adopted, what that does is it negates our truth and it cancels our experience. So adoption is traumatic, it's difficult, and it involves loss for the child, no matter the age. And yes, we accept that to be the case, and we know that causes problems, but neither can we just whitewash over that as though that didn't happen. You know, we are connected. We are connected to our roots through our genes. We are connected to our roots and the separation through our experiences, and it does affect our lives and our relationships later on. The second thing that it does is that it ignores and overlooks the difficulties that adoptees have to form bonds and love others. If you're cancelling out the experience of the person that you've adopted or the person you're in a relationship with, you're overlooking the difficulties that they'll have to love and form bonds. And most adoptees have attachment issues. They can work through them, but it takes many years in some cases. And our ability to bond and to attach is in some cases very limited. We see people very often in the first case as quite threatening, and we feel very vulnerable. So if you are not seeing your child or the person that you're loving through the eyes of them having been adopted, you're cancelling that out and potentially making them feel stressed or anxious and wondering what's wrong with them. And that can never be a good thing, on top of all the difficulties that the adoptee already has to deal with. And finally, the third thing that statements like that do is that it cancels out and ignores the very real truth that most adoptees deal with some level of mental health adjustment. We already know that adoptees are highly represented in therapy. Adoptees are highly represented in terms of suicide figures and statistics, high levels of depression, high levels of anxiety, a greater use of my research found a greater use of legal substances. We can also assume a greater use of illegal substances. So there are mental health difficulties that adoptees have. And so you need to be thinking about looking at your adoptee through the eyes of them being an adopted person and all of that comes along with that. And stating that you'll love them for who they are, that you will be there for them and with them through all of that, and to love them unconditionally and without limits, yes, not because you don't see them as adopted. So I hope that's been helpful. I hope that's been clear. This week is National Adoption Week here in the UK, and PAC, Post Adoption Centre, who provide all sorts of support for adoptees and anyone involved in adoption. They're based in London, and they have been hosting events all this week. And for the first time ever, on Monday, adoptees had a voice. It was an amazing conference, very, very moving, very emotional actually, and lovely to see how adoptee voices are starting to get louder and listened to. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it helpful. Please like, please subscribe, and please tell your friends and colleagues. Thank you.